Hello, hello, welcome. I am so happy you are here. Whether you're listening at home, at work, or on the go, I am always so grateful that you are spending a few minutes of your time with me. So here we are. Welcome to December. I cannot believe we are already in the last month of the year. Goodness, it went by fast for me. Gosh, Christmas and New Year are right around the corner. I really hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you were able to take some downtime and to reflect on all that has been blessed in your life, all the gifts that you do receive every day. And I hope that carries into this year, this holiday time in December, and just be grateful for what we have and what we're given. So our theme this year has been how to have a truly happy year all the way through, and not just the happy new year in the very beginning, which I know we'll soon be saying to each other come January. And I'd really like to continue everyone to be focused on that for next year as well. But we'll have some other challenges for the year too. So this year we've talked about a lot of different things, and we talked about how to be self-aware, how to reflect on what our needs are. We talked about the five love languages, how we can identify those, how we talk about those with others to realize what someone else who's close to us may need in their life, but also how can they give us what we need, and how do we get our own love language spoken to from others. We talked about just the core values of happiness. How do you choose that? How do you find those moments of joy and choose that every day? We know we don't control what happens to us, but we absolutely control our reactions and then what we do in those certain situations. Goodness, we've talked about how do you combat anxiety, stress, how do you overcome those difficult moments, how do you work through that, how do you just persevere. That also led us into discussions around finding your piglet, or maybe being a piglet for someone else, right? Is finding a close network of friends or someone in your social circle, family, whoever it might be, that you can talk to about what you're going through. And then also, how do you provide that service to someone else and be someone else's listening ears? 'Cause obviously, no one gets through a year without some kind of challenge. And just having a happy year doesn't mean it's an easy year, right? It's the choosing that happiness and choosing that joy as you go through every day in the year. And then as you are able to work through things and talk through things, work through those challenges, that oftentimes leads us to the forgiveness. And we talked about two types of forgiveness: the actual, physical forgiveness of just whatever the wrong was that happened to us. But then there's also the emotional forgiveness, where you no longer have those negative feelings towards someone who wronged you. And that takes a lot of work. It's definitely not easy. And that can require you to have a piglet, or have, that resource, those circles in your life where you can use them to talk through your situation and help you work through it. In the last couple of months, we've also talked about being thankful and knowing your why and what gets you out of bed every day to do whatever it is that you do, and have that gratitude, because you are surrounded by blessings every day. And it's very difficult to see that sometimes in the moment. It's very hard to see a happy space if you're going through something that's pretty sad or pretty challenging. And so just knowing that life itself is a big blessing, that you have another day to face. You have another day to get out and to get more gifts and more blessings in your life. And I know the holidays can be extremely trying, extremely lonely, extremely sad. Maybe it's the first holiday you're spending without a loved one, or maybe it's going to be your last one spending with a loved one, and maybe you don't even know that yet. But I just encourage you to be in the moment, to be thankful for what you have, put aside any differences that you have, and enjoy the blessings. Look at the gifts. Look at not physical gifts. Look at the spiritual gifts and the moments that you've been blessed with that are true gifts in themselves, and recognize that and be open to that and receive those and be engaged and soak up every moment that you get. Be thankful for every day. So as we are thinking about, is this year truly happier for us than the year prior? And we've talked about those small steps of how do you have a happier day than the day before, which leads to happier weeks, happier months. And the thought is a happier year. I was looking at some different ways to assess this, and I came across this really great article on Harvard Business Review. And although it was talking more to like a performance review in the workplace, I thought it was really a great way to talk about how do you assess how your year has been, and then create strategies and think about what do you want to do different next year to continue on having a happier year than what this year may have been for you. So the article is called How to Create Your Own Year in Review. Again, it's on Harvard Business Review, so you can check that out. And this is talking about just identifying and taking ownership of what to do different next year. So you've got to be able to reflect on what worked and what didn't work this year. And then that's going to help you decide, what do you need to change? What do you need to continue? And maybe what do you need to stop doing altogether to help you have a better year next year? So the first thing it tells us to do, and there's just 3 steps here. The first one it says is press pause. And we know absolutely at this time of the year, we can feel particularly frantic, right? There's so much going on, especially if you're working and you're wrapping up all those last minute things for the year so that hopefully you can enjoy some time off. That's just the thought of slowing down can be a little bit stressful, but it is so important to slow down and truly reflect and just pause, because that's going to give you the perspective you need on what we need to do differently as we go forward. So this says when we identify what we've done well, we can stretch our strengths even more in the future. And when we spot any mistakes that we've made, we can learn from those and not repeat them. So the action it has here around this first step is quiet questions. And just as it sounds like, you've got to make sure you're giving yourself some time, some good, quiet reflection time to be thoughtful and to ask yourself some questions, and then be able to have enough time to really think through what the answers are and be honest with yourself as you're thinking through these. So find a space, find a time where you won't be interrupted, where you can truly think through, just have that environment, and give yourself 5 minutes for each question so you can think more deeply, and then you can really reflect back on what went well, and what you need to do maybe in a different way. So questions that this says to ask yourself, the first one is, when have I learned the most this year? Was there a particular challenge you went through, or was there a particular time of year or a month or day or whatever the situation is? Was there something that allowed you to learn a whole lot for the year? And if so, think about that, jot it down. And even if there wasn't something big that sticks out in your mind, I think of something small that you may have learned and jot that down. The second question is, what do I feel most proud of? And this could be anything that you achieved. Maybe you set a goal to run a 5K and you did that, and that's the biggest thing that you accomplished. That's great. So anything that you feel most proud of, write that down. The third question, who has helped me be at my best? Maybe it is family, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a child, maybe it's someone at church, maybe it's an online resource group you found, maybe it's just reading the word and spending time in the Bible and time with God, and that helped you. Whatever it is, think about it and write down who helped you be the best you can be. The fourth question is, how have my strengths helped me succeed? So what did you do well? How did that help you do what it was that you needed to do or wanted to do? And then that last question here is, what's the one thing I wish I'd done differently? I think we all have those reflective moments that, oh, I wish I wouldn't have said this or done this, or maybe I should have handled something in a different way. So think through that and jot that down. Okay, the second step out of the three, it's called play it back. Reviewing your progress is always more useful when you include other people. So find someone, find a family member, find a friend, anyone you trust, anyone in your circle to be your playback partner. And so this is saying that playback conversations work best when there's a high level of trust between both people in the discussion. So you're both listening and you're both learning from each other and you're getting that clarity that you need of what the year was for you and how you could move forward. So the action here is just the different playback. There's a few questions here that as you're scheduling time for you and your playback partner, take time to ask each other these questions and then share what your perspective is on their responses and ask them to share their perspectives of what you've given as your response. And that's what's going to give you a little more clarity and insight into how the year went. So some of the questions there, this is saying to do. What 3 words would you use to describe the last year? So you can understand how the other person saw their year and they understand how you saw your year. And then that's a good conversation starter of, did someone see your year as different than how you saw it? And that could be a really great blind spot for someone to bring to your attention that you can talk through. Another question you could ask is, what have you found most fulfilling? And what have you found most frustrating over the last 12 months? And give each person the opportunity to talk through those. When do you think you've been at your best this year? This is your time to shine. Here's what I did great. Here's what I accomplished. Here's where I felt really on top of my game and really confident. And let the other person have that response too for themselves. Another question it says here is, what confidence gremlins, which just means beliefs that are holding you back. What are those beliefs that have gotten in your way throughout this year? And maybe it's something that's been in your mind for a while that you constantly find yourself battling, but speaking these things can be so powerful, and just getting them out and releasing them, that's going to help you work through them and move forward past them. And the last question here, it says, is what's the most useful thing you've read, you've watched, or you've listened to over the past year? And then that's insightful for your playback partner. And then they answer it. And there may be a new book or a new series or something that they recommend that could be helpful for you too. So just, again, that second step of that playbook partner is so incredibly good to just be able to talk about and verbalize what went well and what might have not gone so well that you'd like to work on. And then the third and last step this tells us to do is to fast forward. And so it says, after taking the time and effort to evaluate your year, the priority is to turn the awareness you've gained into useful action for the future. So this is called fast forwarding, and it's how we're specific about the commitments that we're going to make to ourselves in the future. So in this next year to come, what do you want to do different? Is there another goal or achievement that you want to make? Or is it just help in choosing that joy and that happiness and reflecting on the gratefulness and the thankfulness that we should have every day? So the action with this step is called Focus Finder. And so it's talking about, how do you identify the most important action that you want to take across a few different areas. And so it talks about being deliberately definitive and using statements such as, I will. And that will help frame your thinking. It's not just I want to do this or I need to do this. It's basically you're verbally committing to yourself, I will do this thing better, or I will achieve this goal, or I will do, X, Y, Z. And so that's just a reminder of, what are we doing? How are we going to do it? What is that outcome we're looking for once we do it? And so a few suggestions here of when you're outlining your future plans. It says, one learning goal I will make progress on in the coming year is, and then you fill in that blank. One habit I will commit to is fill in the blank. One person I will have a curious conversation with is fill in the blank. One way I will support someone else is, and then you fill in the blank. And the last one is one mistake I won't make again is, and then you fill in the blank. So we know we can feel overwhelmed throughout the year. We know life throws so much at us, and any given day could be the most difficult day of the year for us. And we never know when that time is coming. But taking the time now to reflect over your year and think back through what went really well for you, what would you hoped would have gone a little better? Do you have any ownership, any action, any insight in there that you could do differently as you move into the next year? And then use that as you plan out your 2024 and as you think about, how am I going to go into the next year renewed, refreshed, revitalized? How am I going to make these, or at least be true to these commitments that I'm making to myself as I go through this exercise? So that's my challenge to you for this month, is to do this reflection, really, again, put time into it, carve out that uninterrupted time, and be truly honest with yourself as you're reflecting and as you're thinking back on the months of the year, and just write out. I find someone to talk to. It could even be a silent talk. You could just talk to yourself. Have a word with God, sit down and say, that this is what I need in my life. This is what I feel like I need to go better, or need to do better next year. And then ask for his blessings, ask for his help. Or if you're talking to another person, ask for their help and become buddies throughout the next year. And how do you hold each other accountable to doing the things you just said you were going to do, those commitments you just made to yourself? And then you can start the year out with a journal already ready for you to track progress against the different goals and things. So you'll have a pretty good handle on what do you want to accomplish in the next year. And then as we get into our January topic, we can think about, how are we really going to do that? And how are you going to choose the moments that help you achieve that? And how do you reflect? And how do you be thankful? And how do you truly count your blessings of every day that you were given? One quick little story to help you understand how valuable each day is. A friend recently told me this, and they said, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million today. There's only going to be one catch to it, but do you want that $1 million? And, well, sure. Yeah, I'd love to have $1 million today. But what's the catch? Well, the catch is that today is your last day and you die tomorrow. Do you still want that $1 million? And the answer for me definitely changes of no. There is no amount of money that I want today if it's going to mean my life is not here tomorrow. So keep that in mind, that you literally have a chance every day to make something great with yourself, with someone else, and you have no way to know how you're impacting someone else in their life just by smiling at them, just by saying hello or good morning, or we've talked about it before, not having the road rage, or, just having that patience and that grace, and truly knowing that every human is struggling with something in their life. Again, a happy year does not mean an easy year. You just have to find those moments of how you're going to choose joy and how you're going to work through those moments and be stronger on the back end of it. So with that, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas, a very Happy New Year, and I hope that you have found this year to be happier than the last year. And if not, maybe that's one of your goals that you write down on these challenges, is you will commit yourself to being more grateful next year and to finding more happiness in your life. So we'll leave you with that. This is a wrap for 2023. I hope you have a truly joyful, wonderful, blessed, loving holiday season. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.